She cared for the Mafia boss's stepmom. He placed a paper before her. Sign it. You're my wife now. Subscribe to this channel, or you might never see us again. The restaurant glowed with wealth Sarah could never touch. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across marble floors like diamonds thrown carelessly into the air. The scent of truffle oil and aged wine mingled with expensive perfumes that cost more than her monthly rent. Laughter, careless, effortless laughter code from tables, where people discussed their third vacation homes and summer yachts. Sarah Martinez wiped her trembling hands on her stained apron and forced her lips into the professional smile she'd perfected over 3 years of service work. 22 years old, with emerald eyes that once sparkled with dreams, now dulled by grief and exhaustion. Her father had died 2 weeks ago. The funeral bill sat unpaid on her kitchen counter. The landlord had left 3 eviction notices on her door. Table 7, Martinez. The manager's sharp voice cut through her fog of despair. How many times do I need to call you? Move. Sarah's shoulders tensed. Yes, sir, I'm going. She grabbed the heavy tray, balancing 3 bowls of French onion soup that cost $40 each. Her hands shook from lack of sleep and the antidepressants she couldn't afford to refill. The tray wobbled dangerously. Just get through tonight. Just breathe. Just survive. Table 7 sat near the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city lights. An elderly woman occupied the space alone, no companion across from her, no purse on the adjacent chair, no phone to scroll through, just profound aching solitude. Sarah noticed her while serving table 5. The woman wasn't eating, wasn't moving, just staring through the window at her own reflection, as if searching for someone she used to be. Maybe she's waiting for someone who forgot her. Sarah turned to deliver table 8's order when disaster struck. Her shoe caught on a slight rise in the flooring. The tray tilted. Time slowed to a nightmarish crawl. 3 bowls of scalding soup launched into the air, spinning, falling, destroying. The soup splashed across the elderly woman's lap, soaking her designer skirt, her silk blouse, her expensive Italian leather shoes. The restaurant fell silent. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. Sarah's heart stopped beating. Oh my God, Sarah gasped, rushing forward. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But the woman didn't scream, didn't gasp, didn't even flinch. She just sat there, completely still, as if nothing had happened. The manager thundered toward them, his face purple with rage. You stupid. But Sarah was already kneeling, grabbing napkins, desperately trying to clean the mess. Please forgive me, please. I didn't mean to. The woman remained motionless, silent, her eyes distant and sad. Sarah froze, her hands hovering over the woman's soaked skirt. Something was profoundly wrong. She looked up into the woman's face, the vacant expression, the lack of reaction. She can't hear me. Sarah's heart clenched with sudden understanding. Slowly, carefully, she raised her hands and formed a simple sign her deaf college roommate had taught her years ago. Are you okay? The elderly woman's eyes widened, then softened. She nodded slowly, and a small sad smile touched her lips. Relief flooded through Sarah. She signed again, more complex this time. I'm so sorry. Are you hurt? Can I help you? The woman shook her head, then signed back with elegant, practiced movements. I'm fine, dear. Don't worry. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. This woman alone, unable to hear, treated as invisible by a restaurant full of people, deserved so much more than this world gave her. Where is your family? Sarah signed. The woman's smile grew sadder. My son is very busy, very important. He doesn't have time for an old deaf woman. Anger flared in Sarah's chest. That's not right. You shouldn't be alone. It's the life I chose, the woman signed simply. Or perhaps the life that chose me. Sarah wanted to argue, but suddenly felt the weight of someone's stare pressing against her back like a physical touch. She glanced around the restaurant. No one seemed to be watching, yet the sensation intensified. The woman ordered her meal through signs, and Sarah brought it personally, sitting with her for precious stolen moments between other tables. For the first time in 2 weeks, Sarah forgot about her grief, her bills, her crushing loneliness. She made the woman laugh with silly signs about the pretentious customers. They shared a moment of pure, simple human connection. Then, a shadow fell across their table. Sarah turned and her breath caught. A man stood behind her, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black suit that probably costs more than her car. His face was carved from stone, all sharp angles and cold edges. A thin scar ran along his jawline, but his eyes, dark, intense, dangerous, seemed to see straight through her skin into her terrified soul. "Can you speak sign language?" His voice was smooth, controlled, utterly devoid of warmth. Sarah swallowed hard. "Why, who taught you?" "My college roommate. She was deaf." He studied her for a long moment, then moved beside the elderly woman. "I'm her son." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She suddenly noticed what she'd missed before: men in black suits positioned strategically throughout the restaurant. 6 of them, no, 8. All watching their table with predatory focus. All with barely concealed weapons beneath their jackets. This isn't just any wealthy family. This is something else entirely. Something dangerous. The elderly woman finished her meal and signed to Sarah one last time. "I told my son not to sit with me. I wanted to enjoy being alone. But you made me happy." She smiled, paid an enormous tip, and stood. The bodyguards materialized around her like shadows given form. They escorted her out through a private exit. But the son remained. He stared at Sarah with those cold, calculating eyes, then reached into his jacket. Sarah's heart hammered. He pulled out a business card, placed it on the table. "You'll hear from me soon." Then he walked away, leaving Sarah trembling, staring at the card with a single name embossed in black. Daniel Russo, and beneath it, no title, just a phone number. That night, after her shift ended, Sarah stepped into the rain-soaked street. She pulled her thin coat tighter and started walking toward the bus stop. A black limousine pulled up beside her. The door opened. Before she could scream, a hand grabbed her arm, firm but not painful, and pulled her inside. The door slammed shut. Sarah's scream died in her throat as she found herself on soft leather seats, facing Daniel Russo across a partition of polished wood and dim lighting. The limousine's interior smelled of expensive cologne and danger. Rain hammered against the tinted windows, distorting the city lights into watercolor smears. "Let me out." Sarah's voice shook despite her attempt at bravery. "Right now." Daniel leaned back, perfectly composed, studying her like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Not yet." "I'll scream." "Go ahead. These windows are soundproof." He gestured casually. "And we're already moving." Sarah glanced outside. They were indeed gliding through traffic, heading away from her neighborhood into the wealthier districts. Panic clawed at her chest. "What do you want from me?" Daniel reached into a briefcase and extracted a stack of papers. He placed them on the small table between them, followed by an expensive fountain pen. "Read it," he commanded quietly. Sarah stared at the document. The heading made her dizzy. "Contract, marriage." "You're insane," she whispered. "Practical," Daniel corrected. "There's a difference. You can't just kidnap someone and force them to marry you." "I'm not forcing anything." His voice remained maddeningly calm. "I'm offering you a business proposition." "This is insane," Sarah repeated, louder now. "You don't even know me." Sara Martinez, 22 years old. Father died 2 weeks ago from lung cancer, medical bills totaling $173,000. You're 3 months behind on rent. Your landlord plans to evict you on Friday. You have $412 in your checking account. You work 2 jobs and sleep an average of 4 hours per night. You're 1 month away from complete financial collapse. Sarah's face went white. "How do you?" "I know everything I need to know." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I'm offering you a way out by marrying you, a complete stranger." Sarah's voice cracked. "What kind of sick?" "My mother is dying." Daniel's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something raw beneath. "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. She has 3 months. Maybe less." Sarah's anger faltered. She remembered the elderly woman's sad smile. "I'm sorry, but that doesn't explain." "She liked you. More than that, she trusted you." She smiled for the first time in 6 months. Daniel's jaw tightened. "My mother doesn't trust easily. She's been betrayed by nurses, caregivers, family, friends, all trying to get close to me through her. But you," he paused, "you didn't know who she was. You just saw a lonely old woman, and showed her kindness. Sarah's throat constricted. So hire me as her caregiver. You don't need to marry me for that. She won't accept a caregiver. I've tried. She refuses strangers in her home. Daniel's eyes bored into hers. But if you're my wife, she'll accept you. She'll be happy. And she deserves happiness in her final months. This is crazy, Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Daniel gestured at the contract. I'm offering you $500,000. Half now, transferred to your account before you sign. It will clear all your father's medical debts, pay your rent for 2 years, and leave you with enough to start over. The other half, when my mother passes, along with this penthouse apartment. He slid a property deed across the table. Sarah's hands trembled as she picked it up. A 2-bedroom penthouse in the city's best neighborhood, worth at least $1 million. After my mother dies, we divorce quietly. You walk away with enough money to never worry again. You can go to college, start a business, travel the world, whatever you want. Daniel's voice softened almost imperceptibly. All I'm asking is that you make an old woman's final days happy. And what do you get out of this? Sarah demanded. Besides a fake wife. Peace. The word came out harsh, painful. My mother's peace. She spent her whole life worrying about me, that I'm alone, that I'm cold, that I'll die without ever knowing love. If she believes I've found someone, if she can die thinking, I'll be okay. His voice trailed off. Sarah stared at him. Beneath the cold exterior, beneath the dangerous reputation, she glimpsed something unexpected. A son terrified of losing his mother. What if I refuse? She asked quietly. Then I'll drop you off at your apartment. You'll never see me again. And in 3 days, you'll be evicted with nowhere to go and crushing debt you'll never escape. Daniel's eyes held hers. I'm not threatening you, Sarah. I'm presenting reality. You have no options left, except this one. Sarah looked down at the contract. Her father's medical bills, the eviction notice, the empty refrigerator, the bone-deep exhaustion of working herself to death for nothing. And then she thought of the elderly woman, Alina. The contract called her sitting alone in that restaurant, invisible to a world that had forgotten her. Maybe I can do this, just for a few months. Maybe I can give her some happiness before the end. If I sign this, Sarah's voice barely rose above a whisper. What are the rules? You live in my house. You spend your days with my mother. You learn about her, care for her, make her laugh. In public, we appear as a married couple. In private, he paused. We maintain separate lives, separate rooms. You're free to do as you please, as long as you're there for her. And if she finds out this is fake, she won't. I'm very good at lying. Daniel's expression darkened. It's a necessary skill in my line of work. Sarah knew what he meant. The bodyguards, the way people in the restaurant had watched him with fear and respect. This wasn't just a wealthy man. This was someone dangerous. Someone powerful in ways that had nothing to do with money. What exactly do you do? She asked. Things you're better off not knowing about. Daniel pushed the pen closer. Do we have a deal? Sarah picked up the pen. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. This is insane. This is wrong. This will destroy me. But what choice did she have? Homelessness? Bankruptcy? A lifetime of debt? She thought of her father, who'd worked himself to death trying to provide for her, who'd told her with his last breath, find happiness, Mia. Don't just survive, live. Maybe this was her chance. 3 months of pretending, then freedom. Sarah signed her name. Daniel took the contract, folded it carefully, and tucked it inside his jacket. Then he pulled out his phone and made a single call. Transfer the first payment. He hung up. Seconds later, Sarah's phone buzzed. A bank notification. Her account balance had jumped by $250,000. She stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Russo. Daniel's smile was cold, professional. Try not to fall in love with me. This is strictly business. The limousine turned into a private driveway. Through the rain-streaked windows, Sarah saw it, a mansion that looked like something from a movie. Gothic architecture mixed with modern security, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The car stopped. The driver opened her door. Sarah stepped out into the rain, into her new life, into a bargain she didn't yet understand would cost her everything. Daniel walked ahead without waiting, his back straight and unyielding. And Sarah followed, because she'd already signed away her freedom with ink that couldn't be erased. The mansion swallowed Sarah whole. Marble floors stretched endlessly beneath crystal chandeliers that cast dancing shadows on silk-papered walls. Everything was elegant, expensive, and utterly lifeless, like a museum where no one was allowed to touch anything or breathe too loudly. A maid appeared from nowhere, middle-aged with kind eyes and a nervous smile. "I'm Rosa. I'll show you to your room." Sarah followed her up a grand staircase, their footsteps echoing. Daniel had vanished somewhere into the house's depths without a word or backward glance. "Mr. Russo keeps to himself," Rosa said quietly, as if reading Sarah's thoughts. "But he's good to those who work for him. Fair, generous, just, distant." "How long have you worked here?" 15 years. Since his father died, Rosa's expression clouded. That's when everything changed. When Daniel became. She stopped herself. "I shouldn't gossip." They reached a bedroom suite that was larger than Sarah's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens, a king-size bed with silk sheets, a marble bathroom with a clawfoot tub. Everything perfect and cold. "Mrs. Elena's room is next door," Rosa said. "She usually wakes around 7. Breakfast at 8. She loves scrambled eggs with cheese, but they must be soft. She's very particular." "When can I meet her properly?" Sarah asked. Rosa smiled. "She's asleep now, but I'll wake you early. She'll be so happy to see you again." After Rosa left, Sarah sat on the bed and stared at her phone. The bank balance still showed $250,000. Real money. Enough to change everything. What have I done? She barely slept that night. Every sound made her jump: footsteps in the hallway, doors closing, the house settling around her like a living thing. At 3 a.m. she heard something that made her freeze. A man's voice. Low and harsh, speaking rapid Italian, angry, threatening. "Daniel." Sarah crept to her door and opened it a crack. Down the hallway, light spilled from an office. Daniel's shadow moved behind the frosted glass, pacing like a caged animal. His voice rose and fell in what sounded like commands, threats, negotiations. What exactly does he do? Sarah closed her door and climbed back into bed, pulling the covers over her head like a child hiding from monsters. Morning came too quickly. Rosa knocked at 6:30 a.m., carrying a tray of coffee and pastries. "Mrs. Elena is awake," she said cheerfully. "She's asking for you." Sarah dressed quickly in clothes. Rosa had thoughtfully provided soft cotton pants and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than her weekly salary. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Elena's room was filled with light. Large windows overlooked a rose garden, and morning sun painted everything gold. The elderly woman sat in a wheelchair near the window, wrapped in a silk robe, her white hair perfectly styled. When she saw Sarah, her entire face transformed with joy. "You came," Elena signed enthusiastically. "Daniel told me you're his wife. I'm so happy I could cry." Sarah's chest tightened with guilt. "It's wonderful to see you again. Sit, sit." Elena patted the chair beside her. "Tell me everything. How did you meet my son? When did you fall in love? Why didn't he tell me sooner?" Sarah's mind raced, searching for a believable lie. "We met a few months ago. He came to the restaurant. We started talking and it just happened." Elena's eyes sparkled with delight. "He's never brought a woman home before. Never. I thought he'd given up on love completely." Her expression turned sad. "This life, it hardens people. It hardened his father. It's hardening Daniel, but you." She reached out and touched Sarah's cheek. "You have kind eyes. Gentle eyes. Maybe you can save him." "Save him from what?" Sarah signed before she could stop herself. Elena's smile faded. "From becoming a man who feels nothing, who trusts no one, who dies alone." The words hung heavy in the air. Sarah wanted to tell Elena the truth, that this was a business arrangement, that Daniel felt nothing for her, that in 3 months this would all be over. But Elena looked so happy, so hopeful, so alive. Sarah couldn't destroy that. "I'll try," she signed instead. They spent the morning together. Sarah helped Elena get dressed, brushed her thin white hair, made her the perfect scrambled eggs. They looked through old photo albums, Daniel as a baby, chubby-cheeked and smiling. Daniel as a teenager, already serious and guarded. Daniel at his father's funeral, his face completely blank. He stopped smiling after his father died. Alina sighed sadly. He was only 17, too young to inherit such darkness. What darkness? Alina closed the album. The family business. The responsibilities. The enemies. She looked directly at Sarah. Do you know what Daniel does? Sarah hesitated, then shook her head. He protects people. That's what I choose to believe. Elena's hands moved slowly, deliberately. His father was cruel. Daniel is different. He has rules, lines he won't cross. But this world, she sighed, it doesn't forgive weakness. It doesn't reward kindness. To survive, you must become hard. But he doesn't have to be alone, Sarah sighed. No, Alina smiled. Now he has you. That afternoon, Sarah was helping Alina with physical therapy exercises when Daniel appeared in the doorway. He was dressed in another expensive suit, his expression unreadable. Elena's face lit up. She signed rapidly. Come in. Spend time with your wife. Daniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I have meetings. Always meetings. Always work. Elena's hands moved with frustration. What's the point of having a wife if you ignore her? Mother? Sit down. Elena's expression turned stern. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Daniel glanced at Sarah, who tried to make herself invisible. Then he crossed the room and sat in the chair opposite them, his posture rigid and formal. Alina beamed. She reached out and took both their hands, placing them together. Sarah's breath caught. Daniel's hand was warm, strong, calloused in unexpected places. He didn't pull away, but she felt the tension radiating from him. You make a beautiful couple, Alina signed with her free hand. I wish your father could see this. Daniel. He always worried you'd end up alone. Daniel's hand tightened around Sarah's just for a second, so brief she almost missed it. He worried about many things, Daniel said quietly, but not anymore. Elena's eyes shone with tears. Now I can die in peace, knowing you'll be taken care of. Don't talk about dying. Daniel's voice cracked just barely, but Sarah heard it. We all die, my son. But now I know you won't be alone when I'm gone. Alina squeezed their joined hands. Promise me you'll love her, really love her. Not just pretend. Sarah felt Daniel's hand trembling against hers. For a moment, his mask slipped, and she saw something raw and desperate in his eyes. I promise, he whispered. Alina smiled, satisfied, and released their hands. Daniel stood abruptly. I have to go. He left without looking at Sarah, but she could still feel the warmth of his hand. The way it had trembled, the barely audible crack in his voice. He's afraid, Alina signed after he'd gone. Afraid of losing me. Afraid of loving you. Afraid of everything he can't control. How do you know? Sarah signed. Because I'm his mother. Elena's smile was sad and knowing. And because I see the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. Sarah's heart skipped. He doesn't look at me any particular way. Doesn't he? Elena's eyes twinkled with secret knowledge. Then why does he stand outside your door at night, listening to make sure you're breathing? Days melted into weeks. Sarah fell into a routine that felt almost normal, waking early, helping Alina with exercises, sharing meals, talking in the silent language of hands and hearts. Alina taught her Italian sign language, shared stories about Daniel's childhood, gave her jewelry and scarves, and pieces of a life Sarah had never imagined possessing. These are yours now, Alina signed one afternoon, draping an antique pearl necklace around Sarah's neck. Everything I have will be yours. You're my daughter now. Sarah's eyes burned with tears. I don't deserve this. Nonsense. Elena's expression turned fierce. You deserve everything. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not even my stubborn son. But Daniel remained a ghost in his own house. Sarah saw him only in passing, a shadow moving through hallways. A voice behind closed doors. The smell of his cologne lingering in empty rooms. He avoided her completely, as if her presence caused him physical pain, until the night everything changed. Sarah was in the library, a magnificent room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and leather, chairs that smelled of old paper and secrets. She'd been exploring the house during one of Elena's afternoon naps, drawn by her love of books. She was reaching for a volume on the highest shelf when strong hands suddenly gripped her waist, steadying her. She gasped and turned. Daniel stood inches away, his hand still on her waist, his dark eyes unreadable. "You could have fallen," he said quietly. "I was fine." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. "I didn't hear you come in." "I know," he didn't release her. "You were too focused on the book." They stood frozen, his hands warm through her thin sweater, his breath visible in the cool library air. Sarah could smell him cedar and smoke and something darker, more dangerous. "Which book?" he asked. "Byron, I love poetry." Something flickered in Daniel's eyes. "My mother used to read me poetry, before my father forbade it." He said it made men weak. "That's stupid." The words escaped before Sarah could stop them. Daniel's lips twitched almost a smile. "Yes, it was." He reached past her, his chest pressing against her shoulder, and pulled down the Byron volume. Then, finally, he stepped back. "You should be careful in here," he said, his professional mask sliding back into place. "Some of these books are very old, irreplaceable. Unlike people." Sarah heard the bitterness in her own voice. Daniel froze. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Forget it." "Sarah, you've avoided me for 3 weeks." The words tumbled out. "You can't even look at me. If this arrangement is so unbearable, just say so. I'll find another way to help your mother." "It's not unbearable." Daniel's voice was tight, controlled. "Then, what is it?" Silence stretched between them like a physical barrier. "It's complicated," he finally said. "Everything's complicated with you." Sarah turned away, blinking back tears. "I'm trying my best. I'm making your mother happy. I'm following every rule. But you act like I'm some kind of... You're not the problem." Daniel's voice cut through her words like a blade. "I am." Sarah turned back. Daniel's mask had cracked, revealing something raw beneath. "What does that mean?" "It means..." He ran a hand through his hair, destroying its perfect styling. "It means this is harder than I expected." "Pretending to be married?" "No." He looked at her directly. "Pretending I don't feel anything." The air left Sarah's lungs. Before she could respond, Daniel turned and walked out, leaving her alone with her racing heart and the poetry book clutched in her trembling hands. The next morning, Sarah woke to find Elena more animated than usual. "We're going out today," she signed excitedly. "To the botanical gardens. I want to see the roses one more time." "Are you sure you're strong enough?" Sarah signed back. "I'm dying, not dead." Elena's smile was defiant. "Let me enjoy what time I have left." They spent the afternoon among flowers that seemed to glow in the autumn sun. Elena sat in her wheelchair, touching petals with gentle fingers, breathing in fragrances that made her smile. Sarah pushed her slowly through winding paths, both of them silent, but together. They were admiring a particularly beautiful rose bush when a man approached, tall, handsome, wearing an expensive suit and a practiced smile. "Excuse me," he said, looking at Sarah. "I don't mean to intrude, but you dropped this." He held out Sarah's phone. "Oh, thank you." Sarah took it, noticing it must have slipped from her pocket. "I'm Marcus." His smile widened. "I haven't seen you here before." "Sarah, and this is Elena." Marcus nodded politely to Elena, then focused entirely on Sarah. "Do you come here often?" "I'd love to show you the Eastern Gardens. They're spectacular this time of year." Sarah hesitated. Something about his smile felt calculated, but she didn't want to be rude. "Maybe another time, we should be." "She's married." The voice came from behind them, cold and lethal. Sarah spun around. Daniel stood 10 feet away, flanked by 2 bodyguards. His expression was utterly blank, but his eyes burned with barely controlled fury. Marcus's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize." "Now you do." Daniel moved forward like a predator. "Leave." Marcus left quickly, practically running. Daniel turned his burning gaze to Sarah. "We're going home." "Daniel, we just got here," Sarah started. "Now?" Elena signed something, but Daniel ignored her. He gestured to his bodyguards, who immediately moved to escort them to the car. The ride home was silent and suffocating. Daniel sat across from them, his jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists. Elena kept trying to sign to him, but he stared out the window, refusing to engage. When they arrived home, Daniel followed Sarah to her room. "What the hell were you doing?" he demanded the moment her door closed. "Talking to someone?" He returned my phone. "He was hitting on you." "So what?" Sarah's anger flared. "I was being polite. You're wearing my mother's jewelry. You're living in my house. You signed a contract, a fake contract for a fake marriage." Sarah's voice rose. "You don't own me, Daniel. People saw you." His voice dropped dangerously low. "People who know who you are, who know you're my wife. Do you understand what that means? Enlighten me." "It means every enemy I have will see you as a target. Every rival will try to use you against me." He stopped, breathing hard. "You can't just smile at strange men in gardens." He wasn't strange. He was friendly. "There's a difference. In my world, there's no difference." Daniel moved closer. "In my world, friendly men are often the most dangerous." "Then maybe I don't want to be in your world." The words hung between them like broken glass. Daniel's expression turned to stone. "Fine. The contract is void. Pack your things. I'll have Rosa transfer the rest of your payment." "No." Sarah grabbed his arm. "I didn't mean." "You were right." Daniel's voice was empty now. "This was a mistake. You should go back to your real life. Forget about this place. Forget about my mother. Forget about—" "I'm not leaving Alina." Sarah's grip tightened. "She needs me. She'll survive. Will she? Or will she die alone, wondering why her son's wife abandoned her?" Daniel flinched as if she'd struck him. "I'm staying," Sarah said firmly. "But you need to stop treating me like property. I'm not yours. I'm here for Alina. That's all. That's all." Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, without another word, he left. Sarah sank onto her bed, shaking. What had just happened? Why had Daniel been so angry, so possessive? "He's afraid of losing control," Alina had said. But control over what? His mother's happiness? His carefully constructed lies? Or something else entirely? Sarah stopped eating. The food tasted like ash in her mouth. Every meal felt like an obligation she couldn't fulfill. She pushed food around her plate, forcing bites when Rosa watched too closely, then abandoning the rest when alone. Alina noticed immediately. "You're getting thin," she signed with concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Sarah lied. "Just tired." But it wasn't nothing. It was Daniel's words echoing in her mind. "In my world, friendly men are dangerous." It was the way he'd looked at her, like she was something precious and terrifying at the same time. It was the growing realization that this arrangement had stopped feeling fake. 3 days later, Sarah fainted in the hallway. She'd been carrying Elena's lunch tray when the world tilted sideways. The floor rushed up to meet her. The tray crashed, soup splattering across marble, and then nothing. She woke in her bed. A cold compress rested on her forehead. Strong hands held her wrist, checking her pulse with practiced precision. Daniel sat beside her bed, his expression tight with worry. "What happened?" Sarah's voice came out hoarse. "You collapsed. Rosa found you." His thumb pressed against her pulse point. "When did you last eat a full meal?" I don't remember." 3 days. His voice was flat, controlled. "Rosa's been watching you push food around your plate for 3 days. I'm fine." "You're not fine." Daniel released her wrist but didn't move away. "You're running yourself into the ground, taking care of my mother while neglecting yourself. That's not—" "Don't lie to me." His eyes burned into hers. "I can see through you, Sarah. You forget I've been watching you since the moment you walked into that restaurant." Sarah's breath caught. "Why?" The question hung between them like a confession neither was ready to make. Daniel looked away. "You need to eat. I'll have Rosa bring food." "I'm not hungry. I don't care." He stood. "You'll eat, or I'll feed you myself." "You wouldn't dare." He turned back, and something in his expression made Sarah's words die. There was no coldness now, just raw, desperate concern. "Try me," he said softly. He left and returned minutes later with a tray. Soup, bread, fruit. Simple foods that wouldn't upset her stomach. He sat on the edge of her bed, picked up the spoon. "Daniel, this is ridiculous." He held the spoon to her lips. "Open." Sarah stared at him, her cheeks burning. "I can feed myself." "Then prove it." She took the spoon from him with trembling hands and forced down a bite, then another. Daniel watched every swallow like a hawk, guarding prey. After several bites, Sarah set down the spoon. Happy now? No. But his expression had softened slightly. Why are you starving yourself? I'm not. Sarah, he reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek so gently, it made her want to cry. Talk to me. Why do you care? The words came out broken. This is just business, remember? I'm here for Alina. Nothing else matters. Daniel's hand froze against her face. Is that what you think? It's what you told me. He pulled back, running his hand through his hair in that gesture she'd come to recognize as frustration. I say a lot of things I don't mean. Then what do you mean? Silence, the kind that screamed louder than words. Finally, Daniel spoke. You scare me. Sarah blinked. What? You. He looked at her directly now. The way you care for my mother. The way you look at me like I'm more than the monster everyone says I am. The way you've invaded every corner of this house until I can't breathe without smelling your perfume or hearing your laugh. Or he stopped. You scare me because I'm starting to forget this is fake. Sarah's heart stopped beating. Daniel, eat the rest of your food. He stood abruptly. And don't skip meals again. If you do, I'll know. And I'll be back. He left before she could respond, leaving Sarah alone with her racing pulse and half-eaten soup, and the earth-shattering realization that she wasn't the only one falling. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Daniel's words. I'm starting to forget this is fake. At 2 a.m., she gave up and wandered to the kitchen for water. The house was dark, silent, sleeping, but when she passed Daniel's study, she saw a light beneath the door. She should have kept walking, should have gone back to bed. Instead, she knocked. Come in. Daniel sat at his desk, surrounded by papers, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his tie loosened, his usual mask completely gone. Couldn't sleep? He asked. No, you. I rarely sleep. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit, if you want. Sarah sat. They looked at each other across the desk, two people pretending they weren't drowning. Can I ask you something? Sarah said finally. Depends on the question. Why did you really choose me? Not the official reason. The real one. Daniel took a long drink, set down his glass, stared at it like it held answers. Because you reminded me of someone I used to be, he said quietly. Before my father died, before I inherited this life, I used to believe in kindness, in helping people, in being more than just. He gestured vaguely at the papers, contracts, agreements, things Sarah couldn't read but knew were dangerous. When I saw you with my mother, I saw who I could have been, who I wish I still was. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. You're not as bad as you think. You don't know the things I've done. Then tell me. Daniel looked up sharply. You don't want to know. Maybe I do. Sarah leaned forward. Maybe I want to understand you instead of just being scared of you. You should be scared of me. I'm not. You should be, he repeated, but his voice cracked. I've killed people, Sarah. Not always, but when necessary. I've hurt people, destroyed families, made decisions that haunt me every single night. I'm not some misunderstood hero. I'm exactly what everyone says I am. A man trying to protect what's his. Daniel laughed bitterly. Is that what you see? Yes. Sarah held his gaze. I see a man who loves his mother so much he married a stranger to make her happy. Who checks on me when I faint. Who stands outside my door at night to make sure I'm breathing. Daniel's eyes widened. My mother told you. She sees everything. Sarah smiled softly. She said you look at me when you think no one's watching. I do. The admission came out raw. I can't help it. You're everywhere, Sarah, in every room, in every thought. I tell myself to stay away, to keep this professional. But then I hear you laughing with my mother, or I see you reading poetry in my library, or I watch you sleep. He stopped. God, that sounds insane. You watch me sleep. Not in a creepy way, just, sometimes I check on you, to make sure you're safe, to make sure you're real. He stood, pacing. This is exactly why I should have never brought you here. I'm losing control. I don't lose control. Sarah stood too, moved around the desk, stood in front of him until he had to look at her. Maybe losing control isn't a bad thing, she whispered. It is for me. Control is all I have. No. Sarah reached up, touched his face. He flinched but didn't pull away. You have your mother. You have people who work for you, who respect you. You have me. I don't have you. This is temporary. Is it? The question hung between them. Daniel stared down at her, his breathing uneven, his jaw clenched. It has to be, he said. When my mother dies, you'll leave. You'll take your money and start your real life. Away from this darkness. Away from me. What if I don't want to leave? You will. Everyone does eventually. I won't. You don't know that. Sarah pulled his face down and kissed him. For a moment, Daniel froze, completely still, as if he'd forgotten how to move. Then he kissed her back. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Starving like a man drowning and finally finding air, his hands tangled in her hair. He pulled her closer, harder, like he was afraid she'd disappear. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. We can't do this, he whispered. Why not? Because when you leave, it will destroy me. Then don't let me leave. Daniel pulled back, searching her face. You don't know what you're saying. I do. Sarah's hands rested on his chest, feeling his racing heart. I know exactly what I'm saying, Sarah. I'm falling in love with you. The words came out steady, certain. I've been falling since you put that cold cloth on my forehead, maybe even before. And I think I hope you're falling too. Daniel's expression cracked completely. This isn't supposed to happen. I know. You're supposed to be temporary. I know. I'm going to ruin you. Then ruin me. Sarah pulled him closer. But don't push me away. Daniel kissed her again, softer this time, like she was something precious that might break. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. I don't know how to be soft, how to love someone without destroying them. Then we'll figure it out together. He held her for a long time after that, just held her. And for the first time since his father died, Daniel Russo allowed himself to feel something other than control. He allowed himself to feel hope. Alina grew weaker with each passing day. The cancer was relentless, eating away at her strength, her voice, her time. But her spirit remained bright, especially when she watched Sarah and Daniel together. They'd stopped pretending. The separate rooms remained, but Daniel would find excuses to be near Sarah. He'd help with Elena's physical therapy, join them for meals. Alina noticed everything. Her knowing smiles grew more frequent. One afternoon, while Daniel was away on business, Alina asked Sarah to sit with her by the garden windows. Tell me the truth, Alina signed. Do you love my son? Sarah's heart clenched. She could lie, should lie. But Elena's eyes, so similar to Daniel, saw straight through her. Yes, Sarah signed. I love him. Elena's smile was radiant. And he loves you. I see it in everything he does. The way he says your name. The way he looks at you like you're his entire world. I don't know if he's ready to admit it, Sarah signed back. He's scared. Elena's hands moved slowly, tired. His father taught him that love is weakness, that caring for someone gives them power over you. Daniel has spent his whole life building walls. You're the first person who's made him want to tear them down. What if I hurt him? You won't. You have a good heart. Alina touched Sarah's cheek. Promise me something, anything. When I'm gone, don't let him retreat into darkness. Don't let him push you away. Fight for him. Even when he tells you to leave, especially, then stay. Promise me. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. I promise. Alina smiled. Good. Now help me to bed. I'm very tired today. Those were the last words Alina ever signed. Sarah woke at 4 a.m. to the sound of alarms. Medical equipment beeping frantically, Rosa's voice shouting for help. She ran to Elena's room in her nightgown, her heart in her throat. Alina lay in bed, peaceful, still, too still. A doctor and 2 nurses surrounded her, but Sarah could see by their faces that it was over. Where's Daniel? Sarah whispered. On his way, Rosa said, tears streaming. We called him. Sarah moved to Elena's bedside, took her hand. It was already growing cold. I'm so sorry, Sarah whispered, even though Elena couldn't hear. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. 20 minutes later, Daniel burst through the door. His hair was disheveled, his shirt was unbuttoned. He'd clearly dressed in a rush. He looked at his mother, at the doctor's face, and his entire world collapsed. He fell to his knees beside the bed, grabbed his mother's other hand. "Mom," his voice shattered. Tears poured down his face, the first tears Sarah had ever seen him shed. "I love you," he sobbed. But Alina was gone. The machines had been turned off. The room was silent except for Daniel's broken breathing. Sarah wanted to hold him, to comfort him. But she knew he needed space for his grief. She stood quietly and left him alone with his mother. The funeral was 3 days later. Hundreds of people came, politicians, business owners, families Daniel had helped, people whose lives Alina had touched. The church overflowed with mourners. Sarah stood beside Daniel during the service. He was perfectly composed again, his mask back in place, his emotions locked away, but she felt him trembling, saw his jaw clench, noticed his hands balled into fists so tight his knuckles were white. During the burial, when they lowered Elena's casket into the ground, Daniel's hand found Sarah's, gripped it so hard it hurt. She didn't pull away. She held on. After everyone left, Daniel stood by his mother's grave for hours. Sarah waited nearby, giving him space but refusing to leave. Finally, as the sun began to set, he spoke. "She died happy." His voice was hoarse. "Because of you." "She died loved," Sarah corrected gently. "Because of you." Daniel turned to her. His eyes were red, empty, devastated. "What do I do now?" he whispered. "She was the only person who ever believed I could be more than this, more than my father's son. Now she's gone, and his voice broke. "I don't know who I am without her." Sarah moved to him, wrapped her arms around him, held him as he finally broke completely, sobbing into her shoulder like a lost child. "You're still you," she whispered. "You're still the man who loves poetry, who checks on people while they sleep, who gave a desperate waitress a chance at a better life. You're still Daniel, and I'm not going anywhere. You should." He pulled back, wiping his eyes roughly. "The contract's fulfilled. You're free. Take your money and go. Start over somewhere safe." "I don't want to, Sarah. I promised your mother I'd stay. I promised I'd fight for you even when you tried to push me away." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "I love you, Daniel Russo, and I'm not leaving. I have nothing to offer you but darkness. Then we'll find light together." Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, hesitantly, he leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "My mother would have liked that. She did. She told me so." They stood together as darkness fell, two broken people holding each other together in the ruins of their grief. And Sarah knew whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The mansion felt empty without Alina. Her wheelchair sat in the corner, unused. Sarah moved through the house like a ghost, trying to fill the silence with her presence. She cooked meals Daniel barely touched. She sat with him in his study while he worked. But Daniel was slipping away. She could feel it. He withdrew further each day, his walls rebuilding brick by brick. 1 week after the funeral, Sarah woke to find him packing her belongings. "What are you doing?" She stood in her doorway, heart racing. "The money's been transferred. All of it." Daniel didn't look at her. "I've arranged for the penthouse deed to be put in your name. You can move in today." "Daniel, the contract's fulfilled. You're free." "Stop saying that." Sarah's voice rose. "I don't want to be free. I want to be here, with you." "Why?" He finally looked at her. His eyes were empty again. "My mother's gone. There's no reason for you to stay. You're the reason." Sarah moved closer. "I love you. That's my reason. You don't love me. You love the version of me I showed you, the one I pretended to be for my mother." His voice turned cold. "That man doesn't exist. He never did. I'm what's left when the performance ends. That's bullshit and you know it." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Leave, Sarah, while you still can. While I still have enough humanity left to let you go." "No. This isn't a negotiation." "You're right. It's not." Sarah planted herself in front of him. "You made me promise to stay. Remember, you told me not to run, so I won't." Not even from you. I'm pushing you away for your own good. No, you're pushing me away because you're scared. Sarah's eyes burned. You're terrified that if you let yourself love me, you'll lose me too. Like you lost your mother. Like you lost your father. Like you've lost everyone who ever mattered. Daniel flinched. But here's the truth, Sarah continued. Love is terrifying. It's painful. It gives someone else the power to destroy you. But it's also the only thing that makes life worth living. Your mother knew that. She died happy because she loved and was loved. Don't dishonor her memory by choosing loneliness. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Life, pain, the possibility of happiness. Sarah grabbed his hands. I don't need protection, Daniel. I need you. The real you. Not the monster you think you are. Not the performance. Just you. Daniel's composure cracked. What if I hurt you? Then I'll heal and forgive you. What if you disappoint me? Then I'll do better. What if you die and leave me alone? Daniel's breath caught. Sarah, then you'll grieve. And I'll have been worth grieving for. Because we'll have loved each other completely. She pulled him closer. Stop running, please. Your mother's last wish was for you to be happy. For us to be happy together. Don't let her down. Daniel closed his eyes. Tears leaked from beneath his lids. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. I'm broken, Sarah. I've done terrible things. So you'll spend the rest of your life doing better things. You'll use your power to help people instead of hurt them. You'll be the man your mother believed you could be. Sarah wiped his tears. You'll be the man I already know you are. Daniel pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, he whispered into her hair. God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me. I know. Sarah smiled through her own tears. I love you too. They stood there for a long time, two people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances and chosen to hold on. Finally, Daniel pulled back and looked at her seriously. If we do this, if we really try, I need you to understand something. What? My life is dangerous. My enemies are real. There will be times when you're scared. Times when you regret choosing me. I know. And I'm not perfect. I'm going to mess up. Push you away. Forget how to be soft. I know that too. But I promise. His voice turned fierce. I promise I will spend every day trying to be worthy of you. I'll protect you. I'll cherish you. I'll give you everything I have, even the broken pieces. Sarah's heart swelled. That's all I ask. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, not the fake one from their contract, but a real one, antique gold with a single diamond. It was my grandmother's, he said quietly. My mother wanted you to have it. She gave it to me the day before she died. He took Sarah's hand, slid the ring onto her finger. Sarah Martinez, no. Sarah Russo, he smiled. Will you stay married to me? Really married? No contract, no expiration date. Just us, forever. Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Daniel kissed her then, not desperate or hesitant, but sure, certain, like a man who'd finally found his way home. 6 months later, Sarah stood in Elena's rose garden, which Daniel had expanded and dedicated to his mother's memory. The house was different, now filled with Sarah's books, her laughter, their life together. Daniel had changed too. He smiled more, laughed occasionally, held her hand in public without hesitation. He'd started using his power differently, helping families instead of hurting them, protecting the vulnerable instead of exploiting them. He would never be perfect. There were still dark days when he withdrew. Still nights when nightmares made him wake up gasping. Still moments when the weight of his past threatened to crush him. But Sarah was always there, pulling him back, reminding him who he was, who he could be. And Daniel learned something his father never understood. Love wasn't weakness. It was the greatest strength he'd ever known. And sometimes, just sometimes, a spilled bowl of soup could change absolutely everything.